Okay, I'm Riley. I'm 24. I'm from Houston, Texas. And honestly, I'm down for any good adventure. I just got scuba dive certified and I'm planning to go to Australia this summer, so I'm super excited about that. And then I just picked up skiing like 2 years ago, and I honestly love any themed party. Like, those are like my favorite things to go to, my favorite things to plan. And I'm looking for someone that wants to be my adventure buddy, and it's someone that I can trust in and is going to be there for me.
Aww. If any gentleman would like to get to know Riley more, please step forward.
They're nervous. They're
Come on,
scared.
guys.
They're so scared. Come on.
Hey Riley, we're going to have you sit down, but thank you for introducing yourself.
And we are live on the Conversations That Matter podcast. I'm your host, John Harris. And, well, you did it. You did it, audience. You made me have to watch part of a dating show, which is not what I wanted to do with my day at all. But I did it. I took the bullet for you. I watched an episode, or a big chunk of an episode, of Provo's Most Eligible, which is apparently a Mormon dating show that takes place in Salt Lake City. And it doesn't even have a lot of subscribers. I don't know who's funding it. I don't know who's behind it. They only have 23,000 subscribers on YouTube, which means they might have elsewhere on social media a big following. Who knows? Maybe it's not YouTube that's their bread and butter. But they have received quite the boost the last few days on X because of the clip that you just saw, which has become quite the hot topic, quite the controversy. And I actually put a tweet out there this morning asking, why is this becoming a fault line in the culture war? It's just kind of an odd, dumb, silly, I don't know, frivolous dating show, right? But there's more to it than meets the eye. So we'll talk about that as the show unfolds. There's a lot of stuff, actually, we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what's happening at the Smithsonian. We're going to talk about what's happening with DEI. It's not going away. I know a lot of people think that Trump's in office. It's all done. That era is a bygone era. Not so fast. Not so fast on that either. We're going to talk about, let's see, what else? Man, we got a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about marijuana legalization. The state I live in legalized marijuana for recreational use quite some time ago, and the results are coming in now. How did the experiment work? And it shouldn't be a surprise for people who live in other states that were pioneers in this. There's some negatives, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and a number of other things. So we're going to end the podcast, I think, with a broader discussion about Gen Z dating, marriage, and you can ask me questions about that if you think I might have something to share. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on dating at 36 years old. That is obviously something I've been through. I'm married. I have a child now. I did have to go through that, but it was at a slightly different time. I'm a millennial, and I understand things have changed. I do interact with Gen Z guys. I care about a lot of Gen Z guys. I know that the dating game, they don't even call it dating. I know that trying to find someone as a potential spouse has changed, but I think there's some timeless principles, and I think the Bible gives us some really good direction on what to do. And there's a lot of people right now wondering what to do. And if we're going to save our civilization, I mean, that's how important this is. We need to know what to do right now. I think there's a lot of guys and gals who are either ignorant or just having a hard time. So we're going to talk about all of that as the podcast unfolds. I do need to mention before I get too far, though, that I will be speaking in Ohio in about 2 weeks. If I can pull it up on the screen here. If you go to my website, that's probably the easiest place to get all these speaking engagements pulled up. You go to johnharrismedia.com and then go to speaking. But August 28th through 30th, I'm going to be at the World Right in Front of You conference in Batavia, Ohio. You can click there and it'll take you to the link and you can sign up. And there's a great lineup of speakers. Michael Foster is going to be there, William Wolf, Ryan Denton, Keith Foskey, Jake Menzel. I would like to actually share a post that Michael Foster put out there earlier this year because it's going to relate to the discussion we have today. And if you've never heard of Michael, this post is going to give you a good idea as to the kind of insight that he has. I think it'd be well worth your time. If you're in Ohio, if you're in the Kentucky area, come on out, see us. and we'll have a really good time. I'm going to be talking about, just so you know, give you a little preview about counterfeit virtues. So I talk a lot about virtue, and it's something that I want to learn more and more about. I don't know that you can ever learn exhaustively everything about virtue and what it is. Studying the life of Christ is probably the best way that you can learn about virtue. But there are counterfeit virtues, and I think, somewhat confronted with this when I was reading James chapter 3, and especially the quality of selfish ambition, which is mentioned twice there. And this got me thinking about it, that there is ambition that's good, and then there's selfish ambition, which is the wisdom of the world. It's earthly, it's demonic. That's a really vast difference. And it doesn't seem on the surface like it's a vast difference. And I started thinking about it and realized in my own life, in ministry settings especially, I have seen guys who get into ministry, they talk well, they look the part, they deceive people, frankly. And it's because they are actors, because they have counterfeit virtues. They've learned to project what looks like a virtue, and it's actually not. And this is something that we're going to have to learn in the years ahead of us to distinguish between. And part of the reason I say that is because I think it will get harder as people are able to curate an image of themselves using technology more. The more our lives are online, the more there are filters and ways to show people only what you want them to see. The less we do hospitality in the house, which is fading, we need to put our foot down and say no to that, by the way. We need to be doing hospitality. We need to be in people's homes. We need to have people in our homes. But the more that fades and the more our social activities are mediated online, the more opportunity there is for counterfeit virtue. So we're going to talk about that and things like even how, edginess is not bravery, but it looks like bravery sometimes, right? How do you tell the difference? So that's what my talk is hopefully going to be focused on. I haven't actually written the talk yet, but I've been thinking about it an awful lot. So that's coming up. And let's see what else. Oh, the men's retreat. Yes, Music and Masculinity. You can go to musicandmasculinity.com, September 25th through 28th. The link is actually in the info section for this video. If you're watching, check that out. It's going to be a great time. We got a great lineup of speakers. We're going to have some campfire songs and all of that, but you're going to learn a lot about hymnology and just tradition in general. And I think it's the main thing isn't even the topic to me so much as just the quality of the fellowship, the food, the facilities are incredible. And you're just going to have a lot of time to be, if you want to be by yourself with the Lord outside, you can do that. It's some of the most pristine, fresh air you'll ever breathe in the Adirondack Mountains, or you can fellowship with other people. There'll be plenty of opportunities for that. So it's a great time for men to get together, and all the men who come out every year have a great time. We added an extra day. If you want to stay an extra day, you have an option. There's 2 tracks. Check it out. We're only charging cost. No one's making any money off of it. It is a necessary thing in our minds because we want to see men get together and be encouraged. So check that out, musicandmasculinity.com. All right. Well, the comments for the video are already starting to come in, and I haven't really said anything yet, except I just played a clip. So Cosmic Treason says, men, in all caps, men don't care about how much you love to travel. It doesn't make you attractive. And then in smaller case, in fact, what it does is throw up a red flag that she is frivolous and craves expensive entertainment. I don't know, to be honest with you. I see that take a lot. I saw a lot of people saying that, and I'm not so certain about that, especially after I looked at the actual show. Maybe people who are just judging it off the clip, that might be the conclusion they come to, because everyone's trying to come up with a reason. Why was he not attractive to any of the guys sitting there? Is it the guys? Are they the losers? Is that their problem? She's a catch and they can't see it. Or is it that she's just not attractive? Her advertising is not going to sell to any guy who wants anything meaningful, at least, who's serious. Those are the 2 sides. And I'll show you some tweets from the 2 sides and give you my rundown on how I think through this. And I think it almost seems like I am subverting my own platform because this is Conversations That Matter. And I cannot believe I just played you a clip from a dating show. But when we get the bird's eye view that there's a lot of angst and anger and emotion and just high strung opinions about dating and the prospects and all of that whole discussion. I think it'll make sense why I ended up doing this. I did not wake up thinking I would do that, but as I saw the comments online, I said, you know what, I got to do it. We're going to talk about it. So let's start here. I'm going to start with a do I want to do the dating stuff first? Man, everyone's already, I think you guys want to yeah, thanks Cosmic. Conversations that kind of matter. That's what we are now. I think we're going to do the dating stuff first. I was going to save it to the end, but man, I think we're going to do it. So let's do it. Let's talk about the dating game out there, if you want to call it that, I suppose. Maybe not the best word for it. I'm going to start out with this Michael Foster post. And if you like which I'm reading, then you might want to consider coming to the conference in Batavia. Michael says this, and this is from a few months ago, I think. He posted this. It's May. He said, Jack Reacher won't ask girls to dance. So sad. I've had a front row seat to the social breakdown hitting our young people. You can see it in a lot of places, but one of the clearest examples came from a mom in our church who's helped run a homeschool prom for several years. She told me something recently that I've been stewing on. When we first got involved, it was normal for boys to ask girls to dance, especially during the snowball dances, where the DJ tells you to rotate partners every 30 seconds. That's the whole point. Go find someone new, talk, move, risk a little awkwardness. But this year, the boys wouldn't do it. They stood around, clumped up with friends, goofed off, and refused to initiate. Some danced with each other, ironically, of course. Meanwhile, the girls were standing around the edge of the dance floor waiting. Eventually, they gave up and started dragging each other onto the floor. Some even went over and tried to coax the guys to come out. It didn't work. There were 2 girls for every guy. The DJ repeatedly re-explained the rules and purpose. Didn't matter. Nothing changed. He was baffled by it. It didn't used to be like this. The next day, one of the mom's younger daughters said something that sums it all up. I'm graduating and I've never danced with a guy. Contrast that with her older sister, who just 7 or 8 years ago came home from prom having danced with 7 or 8 different young men in one evening. Something's shifted. It's not just social anxiety or awkwardness, it's paralysis. It's absence, and yeah, it's unsettling. The same trend was the focus of a recent video from Charisma on Command titled The Shift in Masculinity is Scary. It used the Reacher series on Amazon Prime as a cultural case study. Reacher is a walking male power fantasy, big, competent, calm under pressure, lethal in a fight. And yet, in the modern adaptation, he is oddly passive with women. He never initiates anything romantic. In fact, the women have to do it all but throw themselves at him just to get a kiss. This isn't how Reacher was written in the books, and it's not how male leads used to behave. Go back and watch The Girl Next Door or Casino Royale. Whatever flaws these movies had, the men at least wanted something, and they acted on it. Desire was visible, rejection was possible, and risk was part of the reward. That's what's missing now, initiative. Reacher has been reimagined into a man who wins without waiting. He gets the girl without having to pursue her. There's no risk, no rejection, no emotional vulnerability. He's strong in every area except the one that requires personal agency. And the problem is, it's not just fiction. The video rightly points out that more and more young men are living like this is real life. They aren't avoiding women because they're ascetic or holy. They're avoiding women because they're afraid. Afraid of rejection, afraid of misreading a situation, afraid of being embarrassed, canceled, or misunderstood. So instead they scroll, they lift, they build, they wait. They distract themselves endlessly preparing for a moment they never planned to seize. I thought it was overstated, but I digress. It's not that they don't want anything. It's that they've lost touch with how to act on what they want. They've been taught to suppress desire instead of disciplining it. They've learned that passivity feels safer than pursuit. I used to think this was mainly a problem in my own circles. I've harped plenty on the socially stunted sons of reformed households, the boys who can quote theologians from memory but can't make eye contact. Let's be honest. This isn't a reform problem. It's a cultural one. We're producing our own brand of it. A lot of young men today have rightly rejected the old just be yourself lie and embrace the call to improve yourself. That's a good shift. You see more of them focusing on fitness, career goals, and personal discipline, but that growth often stalls out when it comes to relationships, especially with women. They've learned how to level up, but not how to move towards someone. They're told to develop themselves, but warned off pursuit. So they become hesitant, uncertain, stuck. What's needed now is the courage to carry that same sense of purpose into the social realm, to risk, initiate, and act with clarity and resolve, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. So maybe we need to say this to our sons directly. If you like her, ask. If you want something, step up. If you get rejected, survive it. But don't stand on the edge of the dance floor waiting for someone else to make the first move. Okay, that is a sobering read. I read it a few months ago and just thought it was profound, and it resonated with what I've seen. It rung true to me with my own observations. And I think the polling is, I don't know if it backs it up, but it at least supports the polling that I'm going to show you reflects what was described in this particular post. And I think there's a sensitivity to blaming men. And I think that's an obvious problem that we've had for years, is thinking men are the problems. Women aren't. That's clearly true. That's a problem, that narrative. Men are not the problems. Women are not the problems. This isn't a boy versus girl thing. There's something deeper than all of that that's going on. And I do think, in fact, I have it on my desk. Thought I had it on my desk. I don't know where it went. I have Washington's Rules of Civility. I must have put it on the bookshelf. Usually it's on my desk. I think what's happened is the rules for social engagement between two different sexes have been eroded to the point that men especially don't know what to do. And because they're the initiators, because they're expected to be the ones to make the first move and to facilitate social engagements traditionally, they are up a river. They don't know what to do. There's a lot of ignorance. It's a big dilemma. It's a big problem. And there's so many different models out there that even ones that claim to be biblical. I was just with someone over the weekend who we were talking, and I think she was making some good points about how quote unquote purity culture may have contributed to some of this, like the Josh Harris, I Kiss Dating Goodbye stuff, because that was a reaction to recreational dating, right? You had recreational dating, and before that, you would have had a form of courtship where you were forced more or less to have barriers. You would have a room for or a front porch, let's say on a swing or something. You'd have a place, a parlor, to talk to a girl, and you were supervised, so it was safe. The girl felt safe, and you could actually get to know her, which was necessary if you were going to marry this person. And that's how our society has done it for a long time. I mean, you do have some agency in this. You are free to reject someone if you're a girl, and you're free to initiate with someone if you're a guy. And there are friends, and there are, most importantly, parents, and then social leaders. Well, that's all broken down. And yeah, the automobile probably contributed to some of this. You could go off with a girl and elude detection and all of that. And that became the recreational dating scene and the youth culture of the 50s, 60s. But then you had a backlash against it in certain Christian circles with the courtship model, which was, and I don't have time to really give a full detailed critique of that. But I think if there was one problem that stands out to me, it was that there was a lot of pressure on relationships very initially. And I felt that myself because I was somewhat influenced by some of that. And I think my own distinct personality cuts against that grain just naturally. I guess it's important for people who just want to know kind of how I did things. But I read all those books. I gleaned what I could because there's some things to glean from those. But I also basically dated. So yes, I would ask the permission of the father when it got to a point where I thought it was getting serious and it could potentially be heading towards a marriage, when it wasn't just in a group setting, when it was more exclusive, I would say. That's when I would start thinking about that. I should probably talk to the father. So I took some things from it, but I was also pretty motivated that once I knew what I wanted, I pursued it. And so what happened though with the courtship thing, and then I got into trouble a little bit because I took some of this probably from it, was you're putting a pressure on the relationship very initially into the relationship. So let's say if I felt that this was a good thing to be exclusive and to get serious, and let's say the girl didn't feel that way yet, which that's a typical scenario, by the way. It's not always that way, but typically it's that, the guy kind of knows what he wants, girl doesn't. At least where I come from, how I grew up, that's how a lot of my friends were. It can be daunting if a guy is not exactly proposing marriage, but he sort of is. He's saying, I want a serious relationship that could lead towards marriage. And it takes sort of the levity and the fun in getting to know each other out of it. And it puts a strain on the relationship, perhaps, that could make or break it at an early stage. And so anyway, I say all that to lead to this. I made a post and did I not pull it up? I thought I pulled it up. Oh no. Let me see if I guess I didn't. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about, oh no, I did. Here it is. Here it is. You can see it. I made a post earlier in the week and I got a little, I mean, it didn't get like viral or anything, but I did have a few people ask me about one of the things I said. And I said, if you're a young man and you want an edge, guard your time. You'll only be young once. Invest your energy into long-term changes, careful of screen time. Love your people. Spend time in chat groups and more time with the people around you. Cultivate real lasting relationships. Save your money. Don't blow it on expensive hobbies, elaborate food, or unnecessary education expenses. Learn a trade. Then pursue higher education if you're going to do it. Have something to fall back on. Know God. With the time you have, get to know God in a deeper way before the stresses of life overcrowd your resources. It will help you resist temptation and stand secure. And then I said, date broadly. Get to know as many girls as you can. Understand who you would want as a good wife and get serious as soon as you know that's the one. Don't keep her on a string. So I got a little bit of pushback for that of like, John, that's worldly. Don't talk about that. Dating is not the Christian way or something. I'm going to double down, maybe triple down on this. I say that for a reason. I say that because of what I just read. I'm not saying do recreational dating where the whole goal, let's say, is just to have fun. And you're not thinking beyond that. I think in the back of everyone's mind as they're dating, you should be open. You're doing this, you're engaging with this person because you are creating the environment and having the experiences that are necessary to determine whether this is the kind of person you want raising your children. Right? I think that's what dating should be. It shouldn't. The end is marriage, and glorifying God in that, raising up kids in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. It is the end is not the fun you're having in the moment. Dating should be more than just having fun too. It should be doing voluntary projects and working, and you should see each other in as many environments as you can, in my opinion, as long appropriate environments. You should be around as many people as you can that you trust, that have good advice and know you. And you should date broadly. You should get to know a wide range of people. And the reason I say it is because I definitely noticed this trend where guys, and that's more, I mean, I know girls too, but I'm more familiar with guys. Guys are mediating things through screens. They're exactly what that Michael Foster post depicted. They don't know what to do, or they're afraid to do it. They're afraid of the awkwardness. They're afraid of the social ostracization. That cannot be underplayed, because with the way social media is now, I mean, you could do something. I mean, look at this late girl, Riley. She probably never thought that she was going to be on the fault line for a culture war controversy. And we'll get back to that video in a moment. But there's a very high incentive not to get involved in things that could potentially make you look awkward. There's cameras everywhere. You don't even know who's recording. And so that's intimidating for guys and gals. But, for guys, I think because they're the ones that traditionally, and I think by God's design, are to take the initiative. Christ pursued the church, right? It creates a hard situation to jumpstart in. And I think if you do it more, if you date more, you get practice. You start to learn what girls are like. If you don't know that, you start to learn how to treat a girl. You learn things like chivalry. That's why I was going to reference George Washington's Rules of Civility, because it has a lot of good things. Some of them are outdated, but there's a lot. I mean, think about this. Like, how many guys still open doors for women? How many guys even know what side of the street to what part of the sidewalk to walk on, street side or business side when they're walking with a girl? How many guys know how to just talk to a girl in a respectful way that's not weird and creepy, but is also, I mean, this is a scary thing. How many guys know how to compliment a girl? Right? This is something that now some guys get in trouble for. They've been hammered so much by the Me Too people. They're afraid of even noticing a girl's beauty. Right? They're not even trying to do a quote unquote cat call or something dirty or anything like that. They just, to even notice that a girl might look good, they're afraid they're going to be accused of something. So they don't do it. And then, I mean, it creates a breakdown. There's natural things. There's also social things that we've developed that are actually really good that we're just forsaking. And it has a social cost. The social cost is less marriages, less children. It's the demise of your civilization. And civilizations that have competing mechanisms for fostering relationships that lead to children, like Muslim societies where it's arranged, they're going to outcompete. There's just no question about it. Of course, they're going to outcompete because they have a system that actually works for the end of producing marriages and children. We're losing that, and we need to get it back. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, how to get it back. But I said I would come back to the video. So I want to share this, and then we're going to play another video from, is it Lila Rose? So here is, oh, that's not it. What did I want to show you? This. So here's some, just, we'll go back to this one. All right. So here's some screen captures I have. Reactions to the video you saw at the beginning with Riley. So these are ones that got a lot of traction. Evangelical Dark Web says young men are learning that travel is a red flag and they aren't wrong. And then there was a reaction to this that got 10,000 likes. I want to get, oh man, you know what? I shouldn't have showed this. I was going to censor this and I totally forgot. I need to apologize to you all. I was going to block that out. And so forgive me, some crass language. I want to have a sexual, mocking this girl. She wants to have a sexual relationship with multiple guys. That's the idea. And apparently they're reading, the only thing they have to go on is the fact that she said that she wants to travel. So, man, I wish I could show you this stuff. I'm kind of kicking myself for not censoring it, but I'm not going to show you stuff that I think should be censored. So anyway, this guy named Lewis Henley, I want to have a lot of people have a sexual relationship with me and then settle down. That's what he's hearing as he's hearing Riley just say that she likes to travel and wants a travel buddy who she, is going to be emotionally intimate with her and that kind of thing. There's an account called Brotherhood that says feminism has been dominant for so long that women her age never once considered what they bring to the table. The idea that they shouldn't get exactly what they want from top tier men, it's never occurred to her to change. And it's kind of like that's such an interesting thing to read into that short clip, like psychoanalyzing her to that extent. I mean, there are some short clips you can tell things from, but man, that did not jump out at me from the clip. Another one, I love when travel. Man, okay, so crass language, and this got a lot of traction too. I love when people who are loose get humbled. The reality is nobody cares when you've traveled. All men hear is how many different guys you've had an inappropriate relationship with in different states and countries. So that's one end of the spectrum on X. These are guys who, man, there's like, this is over the top, like crazy in my mind. Like, how are you getting this from that? Like, I understand, okay, travel can be expensive. Now that the first thing I thought was, well, maybe she's rich. She might be marrying into a rich family, but I didn't see any comment that said that. I was like, okay, I guess that possibility isn't there. The comments were, you're going to be in debt. Okay, I understand that, by the way. Like, there's a lot of horror stories of guys who end up marrying someone who couldn't control their credit card. And yes, I know guys that marry girls who should have taken a financial class before probably getting married. Okay, I can see travel can be expensive. Now, I'd love to travel. I know how to do it for inexpensively. I know people who travel and actually have less lavish lifestyles because they save to travel. They're not doing fast food all the time. They're eating. They only take what they need. They shop at the perimeters of the store. I mean, there's kind of like a whole lifestyle, but they love to have experiences. They love to travel. So I don't automatically assume that, but I can understand people who do. So that's a legitimate, I suppose, concern you'd want to explore more. But here's the thing. I looked at the show, right? On the show, here's a few things you might not know if you've seen this clip, and that's all you've seen. Riley was the first one to, so well, actually, I should probably back up. It's a dating game show where you have a veil or a curtain. Guys can't see girls, girls can't see guys. And it's in Utah. And they're all complaining about how hard it is in Utah. The dating scene is just so hard. Well, people in Utah actually get married earlier. So it's funny. The dating scene is just so hard, though. And they're trying to match them up. So they can't see each other. So all the comments about her looks and all that, irrelevant. They can't see her. And she is the first one to go up, which matches her, what she says about herself. She's adventurous. She just jumps on up there and say, who's going to be the first to describe herself? And the way it works is you narrow down. So as you hear someone, you raise your hand basically and say, I want to date her. And that's your shot if you're a guy. So when you're the first one and you have a room full of guys and this is the first time, this is the first girl they're hearing from, there's already a disincentive to pick that girl because you don't know what's going to come next. And if there's anything I learned about Gen Z and millennials too, it's very hard to nail down dates and times and because you might have something else that comes up, right? So that could be a big part of the reason she wasn't picked. Just that dynamic. No one that I saw online is commenting on that, but that's probably a big part of it. But guys hear it. Guys are making faces. They were doing that the whole time with all the other girls too. Like guys are very dramatic guys. Some of them, not all of them. And no one ends up picking her. So it's kind of embarrassing for her, but she did something. The way she handled it in the show is kind of mature. She's saying, yeah, it's kind of tough not to be picked, but I'm glad I went out there kind of thing. And that is the spirit, honestly. But people were saying, guys were saying that the ones who had made better points than just must be a loose woman were saying, well, look what she's saying about herself. She wants a guy who's going to be an appendage to her, a travel buddy. Who wants that? And I think it's also important to point out the show itself is a dating show. It's supposed to be the kinds of things you would talk about on a first date. It's supposed to lead to potentially marriage. That's baked in already. They know why they're there. It's not casual in the course of going to church or going out to a business or something, or you're not in the gym. You're not like this is a show that has a purpose already, and it is to pursue a relationship. So that's already baked in. What kinds of things do you talk about on your first date? And I was thinking about this. I wanted a girl who liked to travel. So I already have sympathies when a girl likes to travel because I dated girls who didn't really care for that as much or didn't know about it. And I love to travel. So not expensively, but I do want someone who wants to go share other new experiences, who's not just a homebody. So I don't see that as a big inhibitor. I don't like sharks. So scuba diving, not really probably the thing I'm going to want to do. But I probably wouldn't date someone like that just because I know this sounds superficial, but I don't know if I put myself in the shoes of the guys there. I mean, I wouldn't be on a show like that anyway, but I don't know, like just it's more of a preference thing, probably something about her voice, and I'm not expecting her though in that scenario to spill her guts out about every of her hopes and dreams and desires in every way. Like it's already assumed that this is the intent is that you're going to probably get married or possibly get married. You're pursuing a relationship. You might date and go in that direction. These are Mormons. So that's already an expectation. And you're probably just going to try to keep it light. And that's what she did. It's the long walks at the beach thing. So that's how I view it. I don't think it's a big deal, but I do see how some guys could look at some of the comments she says and at least say they're yellow flags. Okay, yellow flag. Travel could be yellow flag. Agreed. It could be. You would just need to know more, right? Going to Australia, that is pretty expensive. So maybe yellow, maybe red, but it's just you don't have enough info. But there's obviously this struck a nerve. There's a lot of guys who have been burned, who have, or if they haven't been burned, they have friends who have, and they just, they see this as bad deal. So that's the dynamic that I see out there with that. And I have some thoughts, but I wanted to play this Lila Rose video because my thoughts are related to this one too. So I'm going to play this, and then yeah, there's guys, man, you guys are opinionated even in this chat about this. All right. I wanted to show one more thing. Okay, I'm going to play this Lila Rose video, but first I wanted to, can I show this to you? Nope, I can't. I don't think, because I think it's got stuff I wanted to edit out too. Yeah, it's got some dirty stuff. Okay, so here's the other end of the spectrum. Ready? Hannah Cox. Women think being active and adventurous will make men want them. In reality, the current generation of young men are at home addicted to porn and video games and don't have the money for fun hobbies or adventure. I recently talked about how international travel has become female coded and why. You can tell by their faces. They know they can't keep up with her even before she starts talking about themed parties. Right. And yeah, that was the other thing. The theme parties thing, I probably would have been out at that point. Like, I'm not going to do the theme parties thing. Sorry. I mean, it's nothing wrong with it. It's just not, I don't know, not me. So Hannah Cox, who's a commentator on social media, she is saying the guys are losers, essentially. All right. The Free Feminist says some men claim they only want to date a high value woman, but then they meet one and they reject her and then wonder why they're single. And they're idiotic. So there you go. And then Tyler, and these are all comments that got a lot of traction. It says everyone is missing the point here. The guys aren't passing her up because she's not fun or interesting. It's because she's not, and I'll substitute here, sexually alluring. Well, of course they can't see her, so that's just an ignorant comment. So those are your options, right? Those are those are the extreme ends of like the guys are all losers. They're just the guys are all terrible and they're passing up this great opportunity. And then on the other extreme, the girl is a sexually loose woman, clearly because she likes to travel. And you're sitting there like, why can't we be normal? Like why can't it just be like things are usually awkward the first time you talk to a girl or a guy, and having environments to facilitate that might even be a good thing. And maybe don't read into everything someone says initially when they're trying to give a little bit about themselves. I don't know. It's just, to me, I was like one of the dumbest controversies, but in another sense, it's not dumb because behind it is something else. There's an iceberg underneath. All right. So that's why I want to talk about this Lila Rose video. And I know I'll get to your comments. Just hang with me, guys.
I'll talk about Father Mike Schmitz. I showed him to a girlfriend who's not Catholic, and she's like, when's Mass?
What about the man needing sex? That's just a cultural narrative that basically says men are like animals and they have to be able to do this sexual thing. Otherwise, they're going to go crazy. And the reality is there's whole vocations that are celibate. And these are virile men, men's men. Some of the most masculine of men I know are priests. We need food. We need air to breathe. We don't need sex.
It's a gift
of coming together, and it's designed to bring life into the world.
I think the sexiest thing about a guy is like their self-control. And my husband has amazing self-control.
So after baby number 4, when we started practicing NFP, it was like we couldn't do it sometimes when we wanted to. And that kind of made things a little steamier, like not gonna lie. It's hard on him too, don't get me wrong. People will say, well, oh, do you just do other things for your husband?
Okay. All right. Well, NFP is natural family planning. And yes, there's for Protestants, especially, there's plenty to pick through there. I don't know. Where do we start? We're not going to pick through all of it, but there was sort of a similar reaction to this. Can I show this one? I think I can show this one, even though I didn't edit it. All right. So let me pull this up on the screen for y'all. All right. So, no, that's not what I wanted to show you. Let's go to this one. So accompanying this was a post by, is it Lila? I'm going to say Lila. Lila Rose. I never really followed her. I actually kind of thought she was woke back in the day because she, in 2020, was putting out some woke stuff. But anyway, she's a pro-life activist. And she has this whole post about how men don't need sex. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians, she quotes 1 Corinthians 7. I want you to be free from anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord. But the married man is anxious about the worldly things, how to please his wife. And his interests are divided. I say this for your own benefit, to secure your undivided devotion to the Lord. Okay. It also says that if you burn, get married, though. So I don't think it's wise to frame it as yeah, sure, it's not a need in the sense of comparing it to food or water. You're not going to die, which is what she was trying to say. But it is part of how God naturally designed people, men and women. It is a function that God gave us, and it is a very important function that propagates the human race and also binds us to each other. And so the way it's framed in that clip, probably not the most helpful thing, but if you're trying to give people, I guess, advice on whether or not to choose between celibacy and being sexually active, that's not the most helpful video. But what she is saying, in effect, without using priests as the example, that is true technically, right? You don't actually need to. And there is something important to be said there, that men can't have self-control. Okay. It is better to get married than to burn. Very true. But you also need to flee youthful lust. You also need to not take part in, even Jesus said, looking at lust, at a woman with lust. It doesn't matter how minor the infraction is, it's forbidden. So to say, to view it this way, if you're in the lust battle, let's say, that actually is an important truth to know. It's like, I don't actually need this for survival. It might feel that way at times, but I don't. So I want to put things in perspective a little bit. Like, they could be talking in a context where that actually makes sense. But yes, if you're trying to talk about how important celibacy is and maybe like you should choose it, no, not helpful at all. And there's plenty of other things, Catholic things that aren't helpful there, and weird stuff too. Like, women should not, like, if you're going to be talking about a priest in those terms, like, oh, the priest is just so cute and handsome, and but guys, you better not think that sex is something that's needed or whatever. It just comes across as somewhat hypocritical. We'll put it that way. All right. So that being said, there were some reactions to this. Men don't need sex. Women don't need emotional validation or cuddles. You aren't going to die without them, right? Here's another one. This is the face of the Longhouse. And it's this girl on the podcast saying self-control. These are all posts that got traction. Men need sex, period. This lady is retarded. Okay. Do you think any single man would want to be married to these women? Would they want to be married at all if this is the experience they're selling? This is the branding crisis that Christianity is facing now in the West. Being lectured by these women on sex feels the same as being lectured by Elizabeth Warren on privilege. Well, if all you're hearing is that you don't need sex to live, you're not really being lectured, I don't think, which I think is the direction they wanted to go, to probably encourage guys that, you can be a godly, faithful man and you don't have to fall to sexual indiscretion and that kind of thing. They added some things in there that did not help, but I wouldn't lose my mind over it. Okay. It's not like a big thing. And it's Catholic doctrine that they're putting out there. And yes, Catholic doctrine that I do believe has led to a church abuse crisis. I mean, and I'm not laughing about the crisis, just the way that some Catholics don't seem to think that that's connected. It's like, I don't know, you forbid celibacy and then you're surprised that priests end up doing things that are, in their minds, fulfilling those urges outside of the boundaries of marriage. So here's the big picture. Okay. And we're already like 43 minutes into this. You can't believe it. I got so many more things to talk about. It'll be a long one today, guys. To me, the long and short of it is we are living in the ruins. And things like those videos touch a nerve. The Protestia tweet from last week that I talked about, they touch a nerve because of some major cultural damage that we have to get out from under if we're going to save our civilization. Like I said, you already have the fact that the social barriers between men and women that were designed to protect them, that were designed to facilitate the kinds of relationships that led to marriage and children, those have broken down. Men are uncertain. The initiators of society are uncertain what to do. And yet they have at their disposal, at their fingertips, unlimited sexually graphic content. And it does rewire their brain, and it does make them think about girls differently. There is also, and I'm thinking about men more here, there's also an assumption that a lot of guys have that they are victims, that all these things, and to a certain extent they are. They've grown up into a world not of their choosing, but I would like to say this is the world God did choose for you. So in his providence, this is where you are. And you got to man up and deal with it. Every situation has its challenges. This is one of the challenges of living in this period. You didn't choose it, but you were born into it. And you have the ruins that feminism essentially has created around you. More women are getting into professional roles. More women are going to college and graduating with higher degrees. Women are also think sometimes highly of themselves, and they aren't satisfied with someone who doesn't meet a certain threshold. Sometimes it's valid. There's people in my audience who say, I can't find a Christian man who's mature, and I believe them. Yeah, I mean, I can see how that could be a potential issue. You got to submit to the guy that you're going to marry, right? But there's also a lot of people in the world that, and in the church, who they're aiming for something. They're waiting around aiming for something that may never come. Both guys and girls. But when girls do this, when they pass on guys, then it creates a situation where guys are like, why bother? Okay. So I understand this. I get it. I think I get it, at least. I understand that facilitating relationships through a screen, when most of it is so focused for guys on how a girl looks, you don't ever get the chance to develop anything else. And so this leaves out some girls who they get upset. They feel overlooked. But guys it trains them to not take initiative, to be used to these really high barriers that prevent embarrassment and all the rest. And so they end up not actually going and meeting real life women. They don't know how to talk to them. Like the example from Michael Foster. All of this is not stuff you chose if you're a Gen Z guy listening, but it is where you're born. The question is, what do you do? What do you do with what you have? That's really the question that matters to me in all of this. I don't care about the ridiculous drama online. I don't care about the blood sport that, it's guys' fault, it's girls' fault, it's this, it's that. The question is our civilization going to survive? That's kind of an open question right now. And yes, immigration's part of this, but it really does depend. A lot of it depends on whether we're actually going to get married and have kids, and then train those kids up to be productive members of society, to pass on what they've been given. That's what's at stake. That's what I see. The He-Man Woman Haters Club is not going to save the West. And yes, it very well may be the feminist club that has, and that doesn't mean women, by the way. There's plenty of men in the feminist club, but the feminist club has done its damage. But the He-Man Woman Haters Club, the Andrew Tates of the world, even, the Nick Fuenteses of the world, even the podcasters who are middle-aged, and I just learned the word incel recently. I didn't know about that, but they're incels, and this is just like, they don't have the aspiration. They're putting their time into other things, but they're not putting it into the one thing that'll keep your civilization going. That's not going to save the West. That's not the right reaction. The right reaction isn't even to blame women. It's a whole matrix of modernistic ideologies, sinful modernistic ideologies that have gotten us to this point. It's to pick up your Bible, maybe pick up George Washington's rules of civility, maybe. If you have to go get counsel from your pastor, get counsel from your pastor. If you don't know how to talk to girls, you start doing it. You only get good by doing it, right? That's why I said date broadly. Not so you have serious relationships with all these girls. No, it's so that you can, on the first date, hopefully it's not a serious thing. Maybe it is, depending on the circumstance. With my wife, mine kind of was. But I've dated girls who it's not serious on the first date. I just get to know them. They're not an alien. They're not out to just, they're not these tricksters. There could be girls who are manipulative, sure. But it's not, girls themselves, intrinsic to who they are, is not a trickster who's just going to take all your money and take pleasure from you and leave you high and dry. There's girls like that. The Proverbs 7 woman does exist. I wrote a whole song about it. You can go to, this is my album, Driving Down a Mountain Road. I have a whole song I wrote about that. But that's not intrinsic to who a woman is. That's not fundamental to her identity. It's not ontologically what a woman is. And I'm getting the impression there's some guys who seem to think that. And what that leads to, honestly, is more exploitation, more pornography. It does not lead to productive things. It just leads to women when your value is reduced to virginity, or your value is just reduced to. I'm not saying that's not important at all. I'm just saying if everything comes down to that, or everything comes down to whether or not you're just going to be submissive to a guy. Women are called to be submissive in Scripture. But that's not everything that there is to a woman. And, if it disqualifies a girl, so here's what I see. This is a good, I just had this thought. So I kind of tweeted it, I guess, last night. We had the Protestia tweet, right? Which says basically a girl with a past who's repentant and a Christian is better to marry than someone who's basically not a Christian, who's a virgin. People lost their mind, all that. Okay. Then we had the Lila Rose thing, and people are like, how dare she? Men need sex. Okay. And then we had this thing with this Riley girl in the Mormon dating show. And, she's not a prospect because clearly she wants to travel, which apparently means to some that she's sexually loose. In these three scenarios, there is a group of guys. Now, I'm not saying there's not good takes. There's guys that have good takes. There's guys who are sharp. But there is a group of guys, and it is sizable, who seem to think like there is something owed to them. Like, I'm owed a virgin. So therefore, don't jam this down. No one's jamming anything down anyone's throat, but it's like, don't jam this down my throat. Don't force this decision on me. I'm owed a virgin. Don't say that I need to date someone who has a past. And then there is the attitude of, don't tell me that I don't need sex. I got news for you. Once you get married, there's going to be times, especially after your wife has a baby, you're not going to be having a lot of that. Every guy knows that. So I'm just saying there's going to be periods of time, especially if you're in the military or you have a profession that requires you to travel or be away from home, you do have to have self-control. Okay. So it's not always owed to you. Yes, it is the natural thing. It is a part of a duty. It is an instinct that God has given. It is good. It is beautiful in the right context, but it is not something that 24/7 is at your beck and call, regardless of circumstance. And then this one is kind of like, I deserve a girl who isn't going to travel, I guess, who doesn't have aspirations beyond the domestic sphere, kind of thing. I know the Proverbs 31 woman has everything's focused on her house and all of that, but her aspirations, like her activity, goes well beyond the domestic sphere. It's for the purpose of enriching the domestic sphere. Her ships travel to far places, and I don't know. I'm trying to remember how the phrasing goes, like whether she travels or it's the ships the merchants, but she's engaged in business and that kind of thing. So I guess my encouragement is like, don't go from 0 to 100 in 0.2 seconds. Be open to whatever God has for you. And everyone's got a different circumstance. It may be you're the 35-year-old who it hasn't happened. And maybe it could be the single mom who's been converted in the last few years. And maybe I'm not saying that that's the ideal prospect. I'm just saying that may be who God's has for you. It may be the girl who is a homeschool girl who's been sheltered, who is a virgin, and you are going to marry her, and all her everything is with you. She only knows you. And that's such a blessing, but maybe she's infertile or something. I mean, there's so many different scenarios that life throws at you. And depending on your circumstance, only God and you and the people around you who know you are going to be able to know what that looks like. I think it's important to maintain real connections for that purpose, so you can have those outside opinions. But it may be that there's a period of time in the relationship with your wife that you're going to be separated. So you can't have that kind of a relationship. It may be that it's the girl who she wants to travel and you don't want that, but you never let it get past the first conversation. You give up because that was enough at the start. when maybe if you kept talking, you'd find out that this is a humble person that's open to changing how they think about things. We need that kind of maturity, that kind of patience, that long suffering. We need a return to actual chivalry, graciousness, treating women like the weaker vessel that they are. When I was, 15, 16, and I was starting to be attracted to girls and wanting to date girls in that time period, I remember you had guys who were very into the locker room talk, right? And I mean, I've worked with guys like that for most of my adult life. I've worked in shop, I've worked in carpentry and that kind of stuff. So I know what guys say. I know I've been in all kinds of blue collar professions, and it struck me as kind of like rap music or hip hop. It's reducing girls down to like a very pornographic way of looking at women, that their body parts, they're physical, they're this, and it's what they can do for me, right? And Christ gave himself for the church. When you marry someone, you are sacrificing your life. It's not a one-way street. It's not just what they do for you and what you want out of it. You're giving yourself to them. And you're not, it says even in 1 Corinthians, you're not supposed to deprive one another. It's not just her and you, it's also you and her. And so you're supposed to lead, you're supposed to care for, but that's the example you're given. It's a mystery because it parallels Christ in the church. You're the one that initiates as a guy. You're the one that pursues. You're the one that sacrifices for her. Yes, she sacrifices too. She submits to your headship. But be someone worthy of that submission, right? Just like she should be someone that's worthy of your sacrifice. Guys do want respect. Girls do want love. I mean, these are just true things about how guys and girls are. So that's my advice. Get to learn those things. If you don't know those things, learn those things and be gracious. Don't start throwing names out there that I won't even talk. I won't even say the words on the podcast because it's just too, we're not going to bring that locker room talk here. But don't just refer to women the way that hip hop artists refer to women. Don't think of them in that way. They are precious, even if they've done things that are wrong and evil. Yes, there is a class of women, the Proverbs 7 woman. You can create a category right there that are to be avoided, that are evil, all of that. But it's not all women. So be encouraged too. You can do this. You can get married. You can date. And in that spirit, I do want to let you know, I was going to pull it up. I don't think I pulled it up, but you can find it. Let me see if you can Google it. There is a Reformed Singles Mixer. That's what it's called. And it's at Reformation Shelbyville, Reformation Church in Shelbyville, Kentucky. And it's coming up. And if I Google it, it looks like I'm getting one for March. I know one's coming up, though. So, if you go to their church, this is the best thing I could probably tell you. If you find Reformation Church of Shelbyville, there's only one of them. Reach out to them. They'll give you more information. And maybe go to a mixer event like that, where you actually can get to know physical people, flesh and blood, real women. If you're a woman, you can get to know real men. I'm not saying you're going to meet the dreamboat of your wildest dreams, the Prince Charming, or the best girl ever who's just checks off all the boxes. You may end up marrying someone who doesn't check off every box, but it's good to get involved in those kinds of things. I think more pastors should be aware this is the plight that Gen Z is in. And there's a lot of Gen Z guys who really do feel kicked to the curb, and some of them are bitter. Some of them are coming off of bad habits. They're reducing women down to things that aren't appropriate. Women are precious. I have a daughter now. I feel that way even more. And there's also women who are just, they've been given it. They've had it easy their whole life, and they've been told they're the little princess, and they're spoiled brats. And pastors, you can help. Sometimes that rejection, that dating and getting the rejection is the maturity you need. It may be God's tool for your sanctification. And so that's my encouragement. Get out there and get married and have some kids. Stop sitting on the sidelines. And I know it gets discouraging. I know if you're someone who has, you say, John, I have tried and it hasn't worked out. I wouldn't give up on it. Unless you think you have the gift of singleness, which is a whole nother podcast. All right. I think that's all I wanted to say. It's an hour in. Let's get to some comments on that. And then we'll see. I got to talk about this other stuff because I advertised I would, right? So Stormy Squad says, I'm a dude and I've worn myself out there and gotten rejected every time, but no one has ever told me it was the woman's fault. Yeah, I'm sorry, Stormy Squad. I don't know what your situation is. Sometimes it's the girls just passing up the guys. I think this goes both ways, to be quite honest with you. And I think a few years ago, I would have leaned more towards, it's like feminism has affected women so much that that's the driving thing. It probably still is the driving thing. But I am seeing this He-Man Woman Haters Club backlash that I'm like, oh, don't get, if you get into like the red-pilled manosphere too deep and stuff, you get into some weird places. And frankly, some very unusual kind of pagan right ideas about the nature of men and women that aren't even biblical. So just be very careful about that stuff. Let the Bible be your guide. And I know it gets discouraging. I know. Sometimes you just want to give up on those things because you're emotionally, it can be taxing, but it's a big world out there and there's a lot of people in it. And I wouldn't give up. I think that's one of the main things that God has. It's not the only one, but it's one of the main things God has in a natural state given to people. So most people are going to get married or want to get married, desire to get married. And that's a good thing. He who finds a wife finds a good thing. You have to find. It takes some work. All right. Let's see what other people are saying here. Dr. Bob says, this mom has no idea the legal consequences that a failed proposal can incur for a young man. Rejection can lead to arrest. Feminism has done this. Oh, I'm not sure what story he's talking about. There must be a story in the chat that I'm not aware of. Okay. Yep, young men can get hurt, and I think men and women, but men in particular are with the dysfunction that young people are coming from. They're more fragile than ever, and so it is hard. But there's only one way to build that endurance. It's hard when you run the first time. You build it up. I had to go through rejections before I found my wife. And there were times I thought maybe I'll be single the rest of my life. I think that's like every guy who's trying, I did get on dating apps for about 3 months, 3 of them. And just to see what that was like, just to try. I mean, I was in an area that was, New York's not an easy area. And that's where I was through most of the time. Well, not the whole time. It's also in California. I was also in North Carolina, but for most of the time, and I ended up marrying a girl from New York. New York has a lot of career women. Believe me, if you're sitting in Iowa and you're talking about the feminists, way ahead of you, pal. Like I know. I thought I had to physically move to find anyone that didn't have that mindset. So believe me, and I understand what getting rejected is. I think it's important though. I don't just let the initial conversation be the thing. You could find red flags that drive you away, but be careful of just giving up so easily. There's a lot of ignorance out there. Ignorance can be fixed, by the way, with humility. Someone who's humble and teachable, that spirit is worth its weight in gold, more than so many other things, guys. So many other things. Okay, the younger guys watched men my age be punished for not being passive. They are wise enough to run for their own lives. Cosmic Treason says. Statistics Man says it probably varies from case to case. It's simplistic to point to one factor as the only cause. Yeah, I agree. That's in most cases. It's not usually just one thing. 47 years ago, when I wanted to get married, I told my parents to go get me a wife. Oh, you could do that. Certain cultures are more amenable to that than others. Read your Bible or go back 200 years before this idiotic romantics infected everything. Fair enough. I do think parents, if you have, it's a problem for Gen Z. A lot of the parents aren't even there. They're not in the picture. That's not an option, JR. So I understand a lot of the solutions I think that older people see, that it's not the world that younger people are in, and that's one of them. But to your point, if you do have parents like that, thank God for them, and definitely involve them in that process. I don't think I would make them, just, hey, choose one for me. I think I would, I don't have time to get into that. I don't think it's a wise thing in our context necessarily, but it depends where you are. There might be contexts where that makes sense, I guess, coming from another culture or something. Involve them, though. The wisdom is the important part. That's the biblical principle. All right. Let's see. Okay. Recent clip of Charlie Kirk by two young guys, and shares that a man should pay for the date. It was really good on this topic, too, seeing the other iced coffee podcaster guys' reaction. Well, of course men should pay for the date. I know that's lost now. And there's girls who would think, oh, that's wrong for a man to pay for the date. No, that's actually part of the provider role. And it's a reflection of that. You're testing out, is this person going to be a provider? Globally, young women are increasingly becoming more leftist and sane, and men slightly more conservative. The gulf is widening, JR says. Yeah, there is a gulf widening. I think they're going to the right would be a better way to look at it. Conservative, I'm not sure. Conservative in like a paleo-conservative sense. I think the jury's still out on what's going to happen. What in the world? Javier says, Right Response Ministries has a good take on women. Essentially, they are NPCs, which means you have to lead them. Work on your ability to be a competent leader. Isn't that person that's like a blank slate that in those memes? Yeah, what does it mean? I forgot what it means. It's an internet slang, though. I'm pretty sure it's the people who have to be programmed. Like they don't have any kind of... Someone in the chat, tell me what that means. Again, I forgot. If that's what it means, then I don't think that's accurate. No, like women definitely have... They're not blank slates. They're not just waiting to be programmed. Okay. A lot of opinions about this. Nailed it, Stormy. Men don't care about women's self-perceived status. Riley was showing that she lacks self-awareness and doesn't see men as people with their own minds. What? How did... She doesn't see... man, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, where do you... I don't know how you get from what she said to that necessarily. She doesn't see men as people. She doesn't see men as people with their own minds. I don't know, man. Maybe clarify if I'm not getting your take right there, Cosmic. I just don't get that. She could, I think, lacking self-awareness. Yes, that's part of like dating, though, especially when you're not used to it. She's also the first one to go. Remember that. So it's awkward. That's how it is. But I do think that she thinks they're people and they have minds. She's trying to she's probably hoping that there's a guy out there who also likes to travel, who likes adventure, who she could be with. They'll have something in common. Shared interests are kind of important, guys. Not going to lie. That's kind of a deal in this whole thing. You do need to... I'm not saying you can't have a marriage without it, but it really does help the marriage when you have shared interests. When you both enjoy sports and you can watch it together, it's kind of good. When you both enjoy the same activities, it builds a relationship. So I don't know. Okay. Stormy Squad. If Adventure Buddy meant let's go get slushies and go for a little drive in the countryside, I'm down. Not going to Australia. I don't know. I'd love to go to Australia. I don't know about you. That's kind of one of the things that's been on my list for a while. Australia. I want to visit all the places in the Anglosphere. We'll go to South Africa. We'll go to Australia. Okay, Canada's kind of like maybe we'll go to Alberta, and we'll go to Great Britain. It's actually more important to me than going to Israel, to be honest with you. I'd rather... I know it's the Bible, it's biblical land and all this, but I kind of want to go to Great Britain. So yeah, if a girl jumped up there and said, I want to go to Great Britain, I like to travel, that would kind of be like, oh, I'd like to go to Great Britain too. That would be fun. But if someone said they didn't want to go to Great Britain, I wouldn't. I don't know. This is common sense stuff, right? I'll tell you, John, 75% of women on dating apps have travel in their interests. It's like long walks on the beach. That's what they everyone had on their dating apps when I was in my late teenage years. Everyone liked long walks on the beach. It's like People think it's attractive. Here's the thing about travel, okay? It's like having a degree, right? Someone who's been all over Europe, let's say, they've backpacked Europe, but they don't have a college degree. It's like they have one. It's kind of comparable in a certain sense, because you can actually hobnob with elites and talk about these places that they've only been. You have cross-cultural experiences, which actually do mature you generally. You're forced into awkward scenarios where you have to understand protocol and respect. And I actually think it's a good thing when someone has cross-cultural experiences, if it has led them to greater maturity, not just for their own sake, but if it leads them to greater maturity, which oftentimes it can. Be normal on the internet. How dare you? Yeah, I know. I'm asking too much. All right. I am trying to get through all these comments, and then we'll move on to some other stuff here. Dr. Bob, didn't get married until I was 30. Lots of not great girls in evangelical churches growing up. Found a girl who wanted marriage, and she made it clear she wanted me. We're awaiting boy 3. Congratulations, Dr. Bob. Love to hear these kinds of stories. And I can relate to that to some extent. I can. Join the stream late, says T. James Boone. Don't know all you've covered, but I do feel sorry for girls. She's been taught the wrong things about how to have an attractive personality. I think that's just par for the course. That's what I want young guys to also realize. You're not going into a perfect situation. Don't expect you're always going to be able to find a girl who has been shielded from the depravity out there, who also knows what her role is and how to talk to guys and how to present herself. You probably don't have that. Like, there's going to have to be some grace, and there's going to have to be some getting beyond that first hurdle and assessing what the person's virtue and character. Character is the big thing here. What's their character? Are they humble? Are they teachable? What do they want out of life? Do they realize how maybe if they're really all about travel, right? Do they realize how that they can't be all about that, because they have to actually have a husband and kids? Do they see how that conflicts potentially? You have to ask those questions. You have to get involved with someone. I know it's icky, but you have to get involved to see those things. The snap judgment thing isn't always going to tell you. Anita Smith says, I'm finally expecting our first grandchild. My children, 2 of which are married, are in their early 30s. Okay, Cosmic Treason clarified. She isn't able to conceive that others have different thoughts from her, so she's offering them what she wants. Okay, I think I see what more you're saying. That okay, so she's expecting people are going to be attracted to the same thing she's attracted to. I think it's just a normal human tendency, to be honest with you. I don't know. I wouldn't read like so much into that. Maybe you're not. So I won't say you are. I don't want to read into you potentially reading it. But I think I would have done the same thing, though. I'm sure I did the same thing. Like, I knew that girls didn't like necessarily guns and military stuff like I did. So I didn't talk about that, right? I tried not to. But I would talk about things like music or, interests like travel, places I've been. Actually, that's the number one thing I probably talk about with people is travel. If I meet them initially, because I've been to a lot of places domestically, especially. So I've been to 49 states. North Dakota is the only one I haven't been to. And it's been that way for well over a decade. So I just need to go to North Dakota, but I've just traveled a lot domestically. So if I meet someone from another part of the country, that's generally what we talk about. And I can have a conversation and it really breaks the ice. I think travel's good for that. So I don't know, like what do I have to bring except for the things that I know about? I could ask people questions, but when you're under the pressure of you have to present, which is what she was under, you have to present something about yourself so people know who you are and what you're like. I probably would talk about travel too. All right. JR says, from experience, I dated a few women with pasts. In dating, they would have all been nightmares to marry because of these pasts. That could be true. I wish elders would have pointed this out more to me and not downplayed it. Well, here's the dividing line to me, okay? If a girl has a past and This goes for guys too. It's like girls aren't the only ones with past, obviously. I think it's actually the stats I saw last, guys in Gen Z, there's more of them who were not virgins than girls. But let's say either gender, they have a past. The question is it actually a past, or is it going to be a present and a future? And the only way you can determine that is by spending some time getting to know them, if it's not obvious initially, and seeing, again, where their virtue is, where their character is, where's their heart. Are they teachable? Are they humble? Do they bend to the word of God? Do they bend to spiritual authority? Do they make decisions? Watch their actions that would show that they have departed from their past. That's all you can do. And there are women who have made very lovely brides. That's kind of an archetype, actually, that like the male redeemer, the Prince Charming, who kind of like takes a girl who has this and doesn't hold it against her. And she's, she has that humble spirit, and it can definitely work out. And I've seen it work out. Sometimes it's a nightmare. So that girl never moved on from the past. That past was actually it was a character quality that she had innately in her, and it would have continued. So that's what you have to figure out. The past itself really isn't the issue so much as where's her heart at now. Scripture requires a man must have been married to hold any office in the church. It also says they ought to put nothing on their head while praying. Okay, I don't have time to get into it. I don't think I agree with that interpretation, but I understand why people say that, right? Because the husband of one wife, children who are believing in that kind of thing. Juan says, don't send your kids to DEI public schools. That's the best advice we give to parents. Yes, that probably homeschooling helps. All right, let's move on to some other things now. That I think I probably spent enough time on that, and I hope that was helpful. That's the only reason I did this. It's not to get in any of the drama out there, because I think it's very silly, the drama itself on the surface. But I think behind it, though, there are people who are stuck. And if any of this resonated and you want to get unstuck, I mean, you can always reach out to me DMs. I can, depending on your circumstance, maybe point you to some resources. But I don't want to see people stuck, because I care about you, but in the audience, but I also want to see civilization continue. And we're just not going to if we don't get married and have kids. And it's going to require for some of us, reevaluating standards and trying to conform them to biblical standards, and figuring out what's actually negotiable, what's not, all of that. All right. Well, let's talk about DEI, shall we? That sounds like a good topic to go to. I did have some poll numbers I want to share with you about Gen Z, but I think I'm not going to do that now. I have a story from the New York Post from July 12th the headline is "Single Gen Z Romantics Giving Up on Dating as Loneliness Epidemic Spirals." So if you want to know more about the loneliness epidemic and how Gen Z has given up on dating, you can go look that up for yourself. But we need to make sure that we don't give up on whatever mechanism you use. We're not giving up on marriage and finding a wife. He who finds a wife finds a good thing. All right. We are off to the races on DEI, so let's do it. So Fox News put this out not too long ago. A new report warns that red states are quietly adopting liberal policies, including DEI mandates, ESG in investing, and gender ideology, even under Republican leadership, due to deep-rooted influence from national bureaucratic organizations. The State Leadership Institute, a group focused on state-level policy reform, argues there's a shadow government with unelected national associations that are embedding progressive ideologies into state bureaucracies, regardless of what the voters do. Conservative leaders are fond of declaring victory. They win elections, pass legislation, appoint agency heads with great fanfare, yet on issue after issue, the administrative state trudges forward in open defiance of their mandate, enforcing equity initiatives, embedding climate policy, and advancing bureaucratic priorities. The report claims that dozens of well-funded national associations, often branded as nonpartisan or professional groups, are responsible for this shadow governance. These organizations set policy frameworks, distribute federal funding, and provide best practices. Groups named in the report include the National Association of State Treasurers, National Association of Medicaid Directors, and National Association of State Boards of Education. You would never suspect, right? These organizations are agenda driven. And I think that's one of the things conservatives can learn from. Pick kind of a boring name. And, they fly under the radar. Every single one of these associations pushes DEI. This guy named, Noah Wall. Noah Wall. He said that he examined 23 of the largest associations for the report and found widespread adoption of progressive agendas. All right. Anything else in this? So there's a little more specifics. That's what I'm looking for. So this is from the National Association of Medicaid Directors, and they're one of the examples of this. I think it's the president of the organization, said, "Our goal is to gather resources to support our fellow treasurers. We plan to send out survey to gather information on DEI initiatives in the different states." Okay, so this is Deborah Goldberg, a Massachusetts state treasurer. Okay, so this particular individual shared how her state prioritized hiring a diverse workforce and how it benefited the Treasury workforce. By starting with diverse transition team and utilizing more extensive outreach, we found that an exceptional talent pool began applying for positions in our various offices. And over the years, we have seen how diversity benefits and enriches our team Treasury workforce, she wrote. We truly pride ourselves in promoting DEI within our office, even though we are the most diverse office in the Massachusetts state government. We do not rest our... Okay, there's just specifics given in this and places you can look for more of this. And it kind of highlights something that I've talked about. I've said, I don't know how many times, after 2020, when the headlines receded and social justice wasn't in the streets, we were in the drilling down phase, and we still are. It hasn't gone away. It's still out there, and it's in bureaucracies. It's embedded. All the people who work for these bureaucracies didn't go away. They weren't all fired. USAID didn't take care of all of them. A lot of these are embedded in other institutions or in state governments. It's not even just the federal government. So this is something that requires extensive work still, rooting it out. This is why organizations like Center for Baptist Leadership and the Southern Baptist Convention are important, because they're keeping that pressure on. They're detecting it where it comes up, because it may not be making the headlines, but it's still there. And the people who believe these things haven't gone away. So just a reminder of that. Sometimes I think it's important to remind ourselves that is still a threat. And it does play into even the topic we were talking about before a little bit. When you have DEI policies ensuring that minorities and women are still getting more favorable positions, and it's driving men towards blue-collar jobs that aren't as prestigious and don't carry as much authority, there's a tendency to put women in positions of leadership. And that leadership, they're going to learn all these skills and formulas and all the rest, while guys who aren't in those positions are working for the man and they're in more blue-collar roles, etc. I'm not saying they can't be leaders. They very well can be, but it doesn't give them the same kind of training and practice every day. And it does create a disjointedness, and it's not good for society. It's not natural. It's artificial. It's ideological, and we need to stop. So even just getting rid of that, I think, would help things like dating and marriage, to be quite honest with you. Women depending on husbands who have the leadership skills and are taking cultural leadership as well as leadership in the home. That alone would probably do wonders. But we have artificial forces preventing that, or at least making it harder, more difficult. All right, data shows marijuana legalization negatively impacts states. Who would have thunk it? I was 16 and I was in a speech class. I was one of those homeschoolers that went to community college early. It was my first class, was speech class. And we had this debate on marijuana legalization. And wouldn't you know it, I was the only one in the entire class that didn't think it should be legalized recreationally. And of course, the libertarians and stuff, I was familiar with the arguments. They'll say, The government should be out of that. That's something that's new. Hemp used to be, you could do whatever you wanted with hemp. I get it. I do get it. I think it's circumstantial, though. And that's how a conservative has to think. What is, if people can't govern themselves, what is the social cost of allowing something that is a vice? And in this case, it's different than alcohol in the sense that alcohol has all these kinds of uses that are not related to getting high. Whereas marijuana, that's intrinsically, if you're using it recreationally, that is what you are doing. And it is a health problem. And long term, it does make you more susceptible to schizophrenia and all these other diagnoses. Obviously, there's CBD oils and that kind of stuff that are different, and there's medicinal uses. And I understand, I'm not getting all that. But the social cost in our current environment, I just thought it's not going to be good. And I think we're somewhat vindicated here. So this is from New York Families, says, this summer, a survey showed that marijuana use by adults in New York increased by almost 16% in the 2 years following legalization. More than 2 million adult New Yorkers reported using the drug. And trust me, you smell it now all kinds of places you didn't used to. In July, Charles Fain Lehman at the Wall Street Journal wrote a piece entitled Legal Marijuana's Disastrous Legacy. In it, Lehman noted that marijuana legalization leads to higher rates of marijuana addiction, more arrests, and lower property values in a community. Furthermore, Lehman asserted that pot use is correlated with IQ loss, schizophrenia, heart attacks, strokes, and lung disease. Lehman even mentioned the unappetizing marijuana odor. So this is a problem. And some of the stats in this report are just kind of damning. The marijuana use is up, especially with Gen Z. Their alcohol is on the decline. Marijuana is on the incline. 19 to 30-year-olds, 42% use cannabis. 42% of 19 to 30-year-olds. That's up from 28% in 2012. That's crazy. 10% use it daily. Teen use. It stopped declining in the state of Washington, the data that we have for Washington. It was declining. Now it's not. Workplace drug tests, 7.3% of post-accident tests positive for marijuana. So yes, people are getting and driving and they're getting in their cars high. It is causing accidents. That's double the 2012 rate. It's higher in legalized states. 10% of new users develop cannabis use disorder. 30% of current users show signs. In Denmark, 25 to 30% of schizophrenia cases in young adults are linked to cannabis. The average smoker is 2 times more likely, and heavy users are 4 times more likely to develop schizophrenia. In Canada, emergency room visits for cannabis-induced psychosis doubled post-legalization, especially in 19 to 24-year-olds. I mean, it just gets worse and worse and worse. It's gumming up the hospitals. It's a pregnancy risk. It actually creates an incentive for violence. I mean, this is the thing that you've always heard is that, and people I know who have smoked it and so forth are like, oh no, it just chills you. It just relaxes you. Right. But if you regularly use it, it starts changing you. And the 2018 study says that regular use leads to more abuse, or at least it's correlated. There's a UK study that says cannabis use is linked to 9 times increase in violence offending. Now, you could say correlation isn't causation. It's just the kind of people that abuse happen to smoke. Well, maybe that's also an argument against it. Homelessness correlated there. It's just, it's not good. So, and this is interesting too. Tax revenue, 2023, 3.8 billion across 24 states. So 160 million is the state average for tax revenue from marijuana. It's a 7% drop, though. There has been a 7% drop in alcohol and tobacco taxes reduced. So it reduces the net gain to less. So basically, the study's saying that it's not even proven that this is actually going to, in the long term, help your state with more revenue, because there's a social cost associated with it, but also there's these other vices that people are replacing marijuana with that were taxed before. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about marijuana. Now, I'm not, like biblical law, I understand. I'm not one of these guys that's like an absolutist on it. I just think circumstantially, we have a problem. And this, I think also, this may even be related to that first story we were talking about with people feeling awkward in the dating game and don't know how to go from A to B. If you're smoking that kind of stuff, it is going to lead to it's going to lead to munchies. It's going to lead potentially to weight gain. That wasn't part of the study, but my own personal observations, I suppose. Not every case is like that, but you're not going to be as an attractive person. You are going to be less ambitious. You are going to waste more time. It's just not good, guys. I don't think people in this audience are probably the prime people that are smoking marijuana, but socially, we were right. The social conservatives were right on this issue. Once again, Jerry Falwell and the religious right were all correct, and there's no one to give them an award, but they knew what was up, and they don't get the credit for it. Okay, the religion of Americanism. I'm going to skip that. There's a really good article on the Abbeville Institute website called The Religion of Americanism. I would just commend to you. Someone asked me, is the Christian nationalist movement just Yankee nationalism? I've been reading the Federalist Papers, and the short answer is yes, sort of. There's different versions, but I think if you read that short piece, A Religion of Americanism, you will know what that's talking about. What the kind of nationalism that I do not care for. I believe nations exist, but there is a consolidation, a centralization, a divine mission from on high to conform the world, sort of a northeastern imperial spirit that is very negative. And yes, I think there are some Christian nationalist types who do buy into some of that. All right. Last thing I wanted to just highlight for you all is the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian, I have said that I think the cultural issues are really important, probably more important than some of the other even financial, fiscal issues. We got to know who we are. And one of the encouraging things I like to end on an up note is Trump administration is going to examine the Smithsonian. And it's now Victor Davis Hanson to me is probably one of the people who buys into the religion of Americanism. He's a Proposition Nation guy, but he at least, him and I would probably both be very in agreement that the Smithsonian is pushing leftism and ripping on America. And so he has a piece on this, which is really good, that shows this is what the Smithsonian's promoting. Let's see what examples he gives that might be good to highlight. Promoting homosexuality and maligning the American flag at the Smithsonian. So, yeah, that's great. You got a Pride Progress flag that greets American History Museum visitors. Yeah, nothing says America like that, right? So they're greeted with the LGBT flag, but then when they get to the U.S. flag, it is, I guess, it's an immigrants' rights rally, or it's showed its flags burnings and are being used by the Klan. Okay, so that's the depictions of the American flag. So America is evil and also needs mass illegal immigration. So there's a lot of focusing on minority groups and that kind of thing. Let's see. Explicit attacks on Benjamin Franklin. Oh, not Ben. I love Ben. Every American needs to read Benjamin Franklin's diary. Franklin enslaved people, perhaps as many as 7. Their labor helped to build his fortune. All right. Yeah, that's a common thing. It's so typical. Like, oh, it's the enslaved people who built America and made the founders who they were. It's not, the founders shouldn't get credit for it. Franklin was not just a founding father, but a scientist. Let's see. He's a good guy. Don't mess with Franklin. All right. It gives a lot of instances. The coronavirus racism psyop. So COVID-19 is the reaction to it is anti-Chinese. Okay, so the Trump administration apparently wants to examine the Smithsonian, and Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, was freaking out about this. It's like, you got to be careful. Those people want to rewrite history. Well, why don't we examine whether or not it's history that you have? And if it is, what's the emphasis? What's the narrative? There's always a narrative. And I pointed out before, the emancipation narrative is what the left buys into, and the right tends to be this more sort of a victorious narrative of national greatness. We've suffered deprivation, we've overcome. And it's through the sacrificial narrative, if you will. Isn't it through all these sacrifices that we've gained what we have? So I would love it if Trump turned it more into the sacrificial narrative, because that is what confers identity. It also is more true to, I think, who we are, to our actual identity as people. And it is, it doesn't mean you don't have things that are, you need to talk about Martin Luther King Jr., right? He's an important figure, but he's, here's a good way to look at this. Who's more important to American history? Charles Lindbergh, Neil Armstrong, or Martin Luther King Jr.? Now, in my opinion, Charles Lindbergh and Neil Armstrong would be more important to American history. And I think the only reason Martin Luther King Jr. has become so important is because, like, the entire civil rights movement, all of it now rests on his shoulders. He just symbolizes all of it. Okay, I got that. I don't think that's necessarily who he was, but let's just say that all of it is him. Or him and Malcolm X, we'll say. What's more important? Getting to the moon. Like in 500 years, what are historians going to look back on? Getting to the moon, first flight across the ocean. Is it going to be aerospace stuff? Are they going to be looking back on probably what will be a blip in history, the civil rights movement? I'm just saying. So there was a great accomplishments, great risks that those men incurred, but they do not have nearly the status Martin Luther King Jr. does. They don't have a day. They don't have the prominent displays to them and all that kind of thing, right? There's a lot of figures like that. There's a lot of figures that, like, we should know about, we don't, or we do, but they're just not emphasized. How many people know who Benjamin Rush is? How many people know even our founders, who many of them are? I just don't think there's a lot of emphasis. John C. Calhoun is probably, we're going to do him next. I'm about to, by the way, release the episode on the Anti-Federalist Papers for patrons. And then the next one after that, we're going to do John C. Calhoun's Disquisition of Government. He has to be the most original political American thinker. And the most, he's incredibly influential to what our country became. Most of you probably in this audience, maybe you've never even heard of him except my podcast. So you see, that's crazy. So it's about emphasis. Anyway, all right, let's end the podcast. I'll get to a few of the comments, and then we will land the plane, as I like to say. Let's see. We're on the date. I don't know if I want to take too many more of the dating stuff. JR says dating is so different than even when I was in college. Older people don't realize how much it has changed and how much dating apps have thrown a wrench in the equation. I totally agree. I remember when that seemed optional to be online. You don't have to be online to date. Well, you still don't technically, but now it's like, what are you talking about? That's like how everyone gets together, right? What? J.R. Rodriguez says it was a woman who first successfully landed a commercial airliner upside down. Is that true? Also, only a woman who was able to bring down a commercial airliner with an attack helicopter without firing a weapon. I got to look up this story. Should I know about that? I've been fooled. I don't know my own history. Let's see. Stormy Squad says, thank God junk food is getting banned on EBT. Giant overlap between weed and EBT. That is such a good point, and I totally forgot about that. You're absolutely right. Yeah, junk food should not be something you get on food stamps. Absolutely not. That's going to be a big difference once that passes, I think. Marijuana use has exploded among blacks, and it will further increase the racial disparities that are used as a club for destroying America. Todd Friel red-pilled me on MLK. I did a few podcasts, by the way. The best thing you can do on MLK is, besides going to my podcast on MLK, which there are a few, but read The Radical King by Cornel West. Just read that. It's just Martin Luther King in his own words, and you don't walk away from that thinking, oh, he wasn't a communist. You're like, yeah, he was. All right, guys, that's the podcast. Hope you have a good weekend. I certainly am hoping that I do. Although you can pray for my family. I just am getting over something. My daughter had it. It set me back a little bit. It's made it hard to sleep. My wife, I think, is getting it. And we do have a lot of things we want to do this weekend, including a church picnic and visiting family. So I would just appreciate your prayers that we're just able to do that. I have things I want to produce for you, and I've been working on it, but things have been in my way. The funeral last weekend, I lost 3 days that were well worth it, but it was 3 whole days. And then the sickness has just been kind of holding me back. So I appreciate prayers for that. Thank you. And God bless. Have a good weekend and a good Lord's Day. Bye now.